Have you ever stopped to think how much money the average person really has right now? What if I told you that nearly 60% of people are living paycheck to paycheck, even in developed countries? The average household carries over $90,000 in total debt when you count mortgages, credit cards, and loans. At the same time, studies show that almost 4 out of 10 adults can't cover a $400 emergency without borrowing money. Yet social media makes it look like everyone is doing just fine financially. In this video, I'm going to break down the shocking money stats of the average person and what they really say about our financial lives. If you feel like you're doing everything right with money, but still feel behind, these numbers are going to be uncomfortable. By the end of this video, you're going to have a very clear picture of where you stand compared to most people. Not based on guesses, not based on social media, and not based on what it looks like from the outside, but based on actual numbers. So let's get started. Most people don't actually know what normal looks like when it comes to money. We guess. We assume. We compare ourselves to the people we see around us. But the truth is, what we see on the surface usually doesn't match reality. And understanding these numbers isn't just about curiosity. It's about giving yourself a reference point. If you don't know what average looks like, it's almost impossible to know whether you're ahead, behind, or stuck in the middle. Think about it this way. If you were trying to lose weight, you'd probably want to know what a healthy weight range looks like. If you were trying to improve your grades, you'd want to know what the class average is. Money works the same way. When you know where most people stand, you can make smarter decisions for yourself. So let's start with something that affects almost everyone who works for a living. Income. When your paycheck hits your bank account, are you earning more or less than the typical worker? According to data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the median weekly earnings for a full-time worker in the United States are just over $1,000. That works out to roughly $52,000 per year before taxes. Now let's slow down and unpack that for a second. First, this is individual income, not household income. This is one person working full-time. Second, this is the median, not the average. That means half of workers earn more than this amount, and half earn less. If you're making around $26 an hour, you're sitting right in the middle of the pack. At first glance, $52,000 might sound decent, but that's before taxes take a bite out of it. Once you factor in federal taxes, state taxes, Social Security, and Medicare, that number shrinks fast. Depending on where you live, someone earning $52,000 might take home somewhere between $35,000 and $40,000 per year. That's closer to $3,000 per month. Now think about rent, groceries, gas, insurance, utilities, phone bills, and everything else that comes out of your account every month. Suddenly, that income doesn't feel like it goes very far, and income alone doesn't tell the full story anyway. What really matters is what people do with the money once they earn it, and this is where the numbers start to get uncomfortable. Let's talk about retirement savings, because this is one area where a lot of people are way more behind than they realize. According to the Federal Reserve, the median retirement savings balance for Americans is around $65,000. That number includes 401ks, IRAs, and similar accounts. But here's the part most people miss. That number includes people of all ages who actually have retirement accounts at all. And about 1/4 of Americans don't have any retirement savings whatsoever. Zero. No 401k, no IRA, nothing. That means 1 out of every 4 people you interact with is planning to rely almost entirely on Social Security in retirement. For people who do have retirement savings, the numbers change a lot depending on age. And some of these figures are eye-opening. People under 25 have a median retirement balance of less than $2,000. That's not shocking, especially for people who are just starting out. If you're in your early 20s and you have anything saved, you're already ahead of a lot of your peers. The 25 to 34 age group has a median balance of around $14,000. These are people who have been in the workforce for several years, and many of them are earning more than they did in their early 20s. Yet the typical balance is still pretty small. By the time people reach their mid-40s and early 50s, balances improve, but not as much as you might expect. And when we look at people aged 65 and older, the median retirement savings balance is around $88,000. Let that sink in. After a lifetime of working, the typical person reaches retirement age with under $90,000 saved. Now let's put that into practical terms. If someone retires with $88,000 and follows the commonly referenced 4% withdrawal rule, they can safely withdraw about $3,500 per year. That's less than $300 per month. $300 per month. That doesn't cover rent, it doesn't cover health care, it doesn't even cover groceries in most places, and that's assuming markets cooperate and nothing goes wrong. This is why these statistics matter. If you're in your 20s, 30s, or 40s, these numbers should get your attention, because the average person is not setting themselves up for a comfortable retirement. Since so many people plan to rely heavily on Social Security, let's talk about what that actually looks like. According to the Social Security Administration, the average monthly benefit is around $1,550. That's roughly $18,600 per year. For some people, that might sound workable, especially if they own their home outright. But remember, this is an average. Plenty of people receive much less, especially if they had lower earnings or gaps in employment. And Social Security was never meant to be someone's only source of income in retirement. It was designed to supplement personal savings, not replace them. Some people take a different approach and plan their retirement assuming Social Security won't be there at all. They treat any benefit they receive as extra. That mindset might feel extreme, but given the financial pressure on the system, it's not unreasonable. Now let's talk about something that affects your life right now. Spending. How much does the average household actually spend each month? According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the average American household spends about $5,577 per month. That comes out to roughly $67,000 per year. Think about what that means. If a household is spending $67,000 per year, they need to bring in at least that much after taxes just to break even. And if they want to save anything at all, they need to earn more than that. Housing is the biggest expense by far. The average household spends around $1,885 per month on housing costs. That includes rent or mortgage payments, property taxes, insurance, utilities, and maintenance. That's more than $22,000 per year just for housing. Food is next, with households spending about $691 per month on groceries and dining out combined. That's over $8,000 per year. Transportation comes in at around $913 per month, covering car payments, gas, insurance, maintenance, and public transportation. That's nearly $11,000 per year. When you add housing and transportation together, you're already close to $2,800 per month. And that's before health care, child care, insurance, entertainment, or savings. Now let's talk about credit scores, because this is one area where the numbers look better on the surface than they actually are. According to Experian, the average credit score in the United States is around 715. That falls into what lenders consider good credit. That suggests many people are paying their bills on time and managing their accounts reasonably well. But averages can be misleading. There are still millions of people with credit scores in the 500s and 600s paying much higher interest rates on everything from car loans to credit cards. And that brings us to credit card debt. The average household carries over $9,000 in credit card debt. And this isn't debt tied to an asset that holds value. This is money spent on everyday purchases, impulse buys, and short-term wants. Interest rates on credit cards often range from 15% to 25% or more. At 20% interest, $9,000 in credit card debt costs about $1,800 per year just in interest. That's money that produces nothing. It doesn't build wealth. It doesn't improve quality of life. It just flows out of your account. Most credit card debt comes from purchases people don't actually need. Clothes, electronics, eating out, online shopping, and impulse spending add up faster than most people expect. The fix is simple in theory, but not always easy. Pay off balances in full every month. If you can't pay cash, think twice before putting it on a card. And if you're already carrying debt, paying it down should be a top priority. Now let's talk about net worth. Net worth is what you own minus what you owe. It's one of the clearest ways to measure overall financial health. According to the Federal Reserve, the median net worth for American households is about $122,000. But that number changes a lot depending on age. Households under 35 have a median net worth of less than $14,000. Ages 35 to 44 sit around $91,000. Ages 45 to 54 are closer to $168,000. Ages 55 to 64 are around $212,000. And ages 65 to 74 reach about $266,000. These numbers are not unreachable. They mostly come from steady saving, controlled spending, and investing over time. Savings rates are another weak spot. Americans save about 6% of their income after taxes, and that savings often needs to cover cars, home repairs, emergencies, and short-term goals. Experts often recommend saving 10% to 15% of income for retirement alone. That doesn't include other goals. Now consider retirement age. The average retirement age in the U.S. is about 61, but full Social Security benefits don't start until 67. That creates a gap of 6 years that many people are not prepared for. If someone retires at 61 and lives into their 80s, they may need to fund 25 years or more of retirement. And the later years often come with higher health-related costs. This is why these statistics matter. They show that the average approach to money leaves very little room for error. But there's good news. Once you know what average looks like, it becomes clear how to do better. Saving more than 6%, avoiding credit card debt, investing regularly, spending a little less than you earn. If the average household spends $5,500 per month and you can live comfortably on $4,500, that's $12,000 per year freed up. Over decades, that difference adds up. The gap between what people say they want and what they actually do is huge. Most people want financial security, but their habits don't match that goal. If some of these numbers feel close to home, don't panic. Awareness is the first step. Many people never even look at their finances closely. These numbers don't define your future. They show where the average person ends up. What you do with that information is up to you. You deserve better than struggling in retirement. You deserve better than constant financial stress. And doing better than average is more achievable than most people think. The choice is yours. If you're still unsure where to start, here's a simple plan you can actually act on this week. Look at your last month of bank or card statements. Write down what you truly spent on essentials like housing, food, transportation, and insurance. Then list everything else: subscriptions, dining out, shopping, entertainment. Just seeing the numbers on paper changes how you think about them. Next, pick one small change that frees even $50 to $100 per month. Maybe it's canceling one subscription, reducing dining out by one meal a week, or shopping for a cheaper phone plan. That alone gives you $600 to $1,200 per year, enough to start or add to a savings account. Also, check the latest official numbers for context. For example, Social Security data shows the average monthly benefit for retirement-related payouts was about $1,784 in August 2024. That's higher than some earlier figures, but still not enough on its own for most retirees. Small steps build up. If you start now, your future self won't have to rely on averages. If these numbers surprised you, you're not alone, and they say a lot about where most people really stand with money. If you found this useful, like the video, share it with someone who needs to see it, and subscribe for more eye-opening content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.